OK， 开始吧，不浪费时间了，我操，就这个。每天带把它搞起来。Number of them reduce number to 0。去OneDrive里面。Never forget。杂志找里面考一个吧。这人说不值得我对他好，他妈的逼，这么烦吗？我操！这人就是不值得我对他好，这很痛苦。不值得对他好啊！1万个小时。1万小时执行力就好，这挺好。OK。挺有意思的，它主要就是这一个结果是偶数和奇数，有点意思。看怎么说。
This is your LeetCode video solution to problem 1342. Number of steps to reduce a number to 0. The problem states, given an integer num, return the number of steps to reduce it to 0. In a step, if the current number is even, then it must be divided by 2. Otherwise, 1 is subtracted from it. Our constraints are that the value of num can be from 0 to 1 within the include.
偶数除以2，奇数减1是吧？除了减1，看一下需要几步是吧？
Exclusive. Let's look at how to approach this problem. We begin with a given number, num, that we must get to 0 by either halving or subtracting 1 from it multiple times. We halve when num is even, and we subtract 1 from num when num is odd. A step is when we either halve or subtract 1 from num. We repeat doing either of these operations until num is 0. Therefore, the total steps we must return is the number of times we have either halved or subtracted 1 from num to get it to 0. The time complexity is big O of log of n. This is because, in the worst case, the most steps we can take for a given n will be when every time we halve, we subtract 1 in the following step. Consider this example. When num is even, we halve, and when it's odd, we subtract 1. but by subtracting 1, we make none even, which means we must halve none in the following step. We can see that this is the worst case example, as every time we halve, we must subtract 1, resulting in half our steps being halving steps, and the other half being subtracting steps. However, it's also possible for a halving step.
气死我了！半年没用，教了半年都会了。啊，原物。太久没刷题了，水平下降严重。
To be followed by another halving step, resulting in fewer subtracting steps. Here, we're only halving half the time. When we reduce n by half each time, it will take log n steps to reach 1. Since, in the worst case scenario, we have approximately the same number of subtraction steps as halving steps, we can say there are also log n subtracting steps. This gives us a total of 2 log n steps, which simplifies to big O of log n. The space complexity is constant.
看文字应该会快一点。看，这也很简单。
As we do not create a data structure proportional in size to the value of our input. Let's turn this into code. The first thing I'm going to do is create a variable to count our steps. Now we need to repeatedly perform our steps, stopping once none becomes 0. I'll use a while loop to do this, where it will iterate while none is greater than 0. Now we must check the value of none, and check if we should halve or subtract 1 from it. I'm using the modulo operator, which returns the remainder of dividing none by a number, in this case 2. If an even number is divided by 2, then we get a remainder of 0. We get a remainder of 1 if the number is odd. As those are the only two options available, we can drop straight down to the else branch for odd numbers. If none is even, we'll set it to half its value. Now, I'm using a bit of syntactic sugar here to those unfamiliar. This is essentially the same as dividing none by 2, but then assigning the result back to none. If none is odd, we'll subtract 1 from it. Again, a bit of syntactic sugar, but this syntax decrements none by 1 value. After we've performed our step, then we can increment steps by 1 to keep track. Have a guess at the syntax. Yep, if we want to increment by 1, then we use plus symbols instead of minus signs. Once none becomes 0, the while loop terminates, and we may return the steps. The time complexity is big O of log of n, as the number of steps we take depends on the amount of times we halve the value of our input. The space complexity is constant, as we are not creating any data structures proportional in size to our input. This approach does not improve the time or space complexity, as the number of steps we take depends on the amount of times we halve the value of our input. The space complexity is constant, as we are not creating any data structures proportional in size to our input. This approach does not improve the time or space complexity of the previous approach, but does provide an alternative way of thinking that may help you with other problems. This approach uses slightly more advanced concepts, but try and follow the explanation, even if you're new to coding. Don't worry if you're unfamiliar to some of the concepts, as the first approach is still a perfectly acceptable and readable solution. In this approach, we will be considering the binary representation of num. In binary, the place value of each digit represents power of 2. This provides some very useful properties when wanting to double or halve a number. To convert a binary number to decimal, you sum all of the place values that have a 1. Notice that, because each place value is a power of 2, the value to the right is half the current place value. So to halve a number in binary, all we need to do is move all our bits right by 1 place. Also notice that an odd number in binary always has a rightmost value of 1, as all the other place values are an even power of 2. By checking the rightmost bit, we can quickly determine if the number is odd or even. We can use logical bitwise operators and bit masks to check this rightmost bit. A logical bitwise operator compares all the bits in one binary number to all the corresponding bits in another binary number in constant time. It then returns the binary number with the resultant bits in the corresponding positions. There are bitwise operators that mirror the same logic as those used for Boolean operators. The difference is that bitwise operators take number values and compare the bits of the binary representations of those numbers with 1s as true and 0s as false. A bit mask is an integer which we use for the location of its bits, rather than its value. The position of the bit mask's bits allows us to inspect the values of the bits in another integer, using a bitwise operator. In our case, we wish to check if the rightmost bit is a 1, to determine if it's odd or even. We can use the bit mask of 1 and the AND logical operator to do this. Because all the other bits in our bit mask are 0s, the result will be 0 in those positions. But for the rightmost position, the value depends on the bit in num. If it's 0, we will get 0, and if it's 1, then 1's returned. Depending on the value of the integer after applying the bit mask, we can then choose whether to halve or subtract 1 from num. Then, as before, we repeat until num is 0 and count the number of steps. The time complexity is again log of n, as we are again halving the value of n.
妈的，没怎么看懂，我操！再听一遍啥玩意儿，我操！
Thinking that may help you with other problems. This approach uses slightly more advanced concepts, but try and follow the explanation, even if you're new to coding. Don't worry if you're unfamiliar to some of the concepts, as the first approach is still a perfectly acceptable and readable solution. In this approach, we will be considering the binary representation of num. In binary, the place value of each digit represents power of 2. This provides some very useful properties when wanting to double or halve a number. To convert a binary number to decimal, you sum all of the place values that have a 1. Notice that, because each place value is a power of 2, the value to the right is half the current place value. So to halve a number in binary, all we need to do is move all our bits right by 1 place.
那是多少他妈的？30吗？
To convert a binary number to decimal, you sum all of the place values that have a 1.
哦，我以为你一问是吧？
Notice that, because each place value is a power of 2, the value to the right is half the current place value. So to halve a number in binary, all we need to do is move all our bits right by 1 place. Also notice that an odd number in binary always has a rightmost value of 1, as all the other place values are an even power of 2. By checking the rightmost bit, we can quickly determine if the number is odd.
它的意思就是0的话就把它删掉，1的话就把它减掉，是吧？
Or even. We can use logical bitwise operators and bit masks to check this rightmost bit. A logical bitwise operator compares all the bits in one binary number to all the corresponding bits in another binary number in constant time. It then returns the binary number with the resultant bits in the corresponding positions.
它跟你1010去对比。OK， 然后呢，得出什么结论？
There are bitwise operators that mirror the same logic as those used for Boolean operators. The difference is that bitwise operators take number values and compare the bits of the binary representations of those numbers.
这用电信号来做是吧？我
With
操！
1s as true and 0s as false. A bit mask is an integer which we use for the location of its bits, rather than its value. The position of the bit mask's bits allows us to inspect the values of the bits in another integer, using a bitwise operator. In our case, we wish to check if the rightmost bit is a 1, to determine if it's odd or even. We can use the bit mask of 1 and the AND logical operator to do this. Because all the other bits in our bit mask are 0s, the result will be 0 in those positions. But for the rightmost position, the value depends on the bit in num. If it's 0, we will get 0, and if it's 1, then 1 is returned. Depending on the value of the integer after applying the bit mask, we can then choose whether to halve or subtract 1 from none. Then, as before, we repeat until none is 0 and count the number of steps. The time complexity is again one of n, as we are again halving the value of n. Be wary not to confuse the length of the binary representation with its value. The space complexity is constant, as we do not create a data structure proportional in size to our input. Let's turn this into code. We'll be altering code from the last approach, as this time, we're replacing our operations for checking if a number is odd or even and halving a number with their bitwise counterparts. Firstly, let's replace this operation to check if none is odd or even. In the last approach we used modulo, which returned 0 for even and 1 for odd. Recall from the explanation earlier that we can use a bit mask to do this instead. We'll use none here, like before, and the AND bitwise operator. Remember that the bitwise operator looks at the binary representation of none and not the decimal value. So we want a bit mask where the rightmost bit is 1 and the rest is 0, so we may compare with the rightmost bit of none. Converting to decimal, this is just the integer 1. The result will either be 1 when both rightmost bits are 1, or 0 if the rightmost bit of none is 0, as 0 and 1 is 0. Next, let's look at how to halve none when it's even. The Java operator for a bitwise right shift is the double right arrow operator, which returns all of none bits shifted right by a specific number of positions. In this case, we only want to shift them by 1 place. If you remember the syntactic sugar we used in the last approach, the same pattern applies if we want to quickly perform the assignment on none. We put the operator before the equal sign. This does the same thing as before. We may leave everything else as it was. The time complexity is big O of log of n, as the number of steps we take depends on the amount of times we halve the value of our input. The space complexity is constant, as we are not creating any data structures proportional in size to our input. This has been your video solution to problem 1342, number of steps to reduce a number to 0. Thank you for watching.
这你妈都没写完呢，我操！
Our input. The space complexity is constant, as
真
reduce a
的
number to
吗？
0.
算了，
Thank you for watching.
这看着他怎么写的。这是最简单的，应该都会。这个稍微有点复杂一点吧。他不这样写的呀，这样写有一个毛意思啊。实录写里面找一个稍微好一点的，肯定是找 Java 呀，我操！ 肯定找 most of the world。beat。这代码不错。数学这就简单了。OK，那就没有问题了。那就把这道题给。 直接 next 吗？不用我们做吗？我是把它做完吧，我操！做完就觉得有点蠢，我天！遇见了就把它搞定。写一下吧，随便换，把两种写法都给弄一下。 第一个是数学法。那么大于999，哎呀，这个他妈不方便，下面去。假如那么2是0，就说明是负，那就把除掉就好了。除一下是吧？我的就很简单了，就这样，那我们减减就好了。然后在这里再搞一个，这里循环完再 step 加加。step 加加。step 少一个 s，step 加加，就把它写完了。然后再来 return steps。它 commodity 就是 O， 那个 space complexity 就是 O 1。OK， 跑一下，没问题。可不可以复制之类的呀？妈的，行吧。Submit node。半小时就算了，抄掉了。这是一种，还有一种写法。看写法是用那个模拟信号来写的。模拟信号写的。再给你，那就等于什么？这需要判断一下，那么是不是等于1？是不是等于1？是的话就那么什么？那么这个1。不是的话就是那么这个1。然后是用 count 加加。return count。哦，这里写错，这里错了吗？哦，这里不是大括号是小括号，我操。OK。超时就超时了，对了就行，超不超时无所谓。嗯，怎么这么长时间啊？是不是搞定了呀？搞定了就先，那就先这样吧。这道题要搞了呀。OK，没问题。那就这样吧，搞定，收工。